royal family's polished image has always been a carefully curated performance. Elegant smiles, choreographed waves, and staged unity meant to assure the world that everything behind palace doors is perfectly in sync. But lately, that illusion has been shattered. And at the center of the chaos, Queen Camilla and Catherine, Princess of Wales. What was once whispered as a low-simmering rivalry has now exploded into an all-out royal fallout that's left the monarchy scrambling. This wasn't some petty disagreement about etiquette or protocol, this was personal. And it all came crashing down during what was supposed to be just another planning meeting. Imagine this, a long royal table, King Charles at the head, Camilla on one side, William and Catherine on the other, the air thick with royal decorum. Until Camilla casually dropped a line that hit like a wrecking ball. Do we really need Catherine there? Sometimes she makes everything about herself. The room froze. The dig was sharp. But the moment didn't stop there. With a smirk, Camilla leaned in and added the one line that blew the whole thing apart. As Diana was, I guess. Boom, that name, Diana. The one line no one, absolutely no one dares to cross in front of William. Catherine stood up, visibly shaken, and simply said, "That woman will never speak to me again." She left the room in silence, and William followed. His face unreadable, but his fury unmistakable. What happened after that changed the monarchy forever. Prince William didn't yell. He didn't storm through the halls or call a press conference. He picked up the phone, called his top aides, and made a decision so clear, so absolute, it left palace staff in complete shock. Camilla was done. Not in title, she's still queen consort, but in relevance. From that moment on, she was banned from any and all engagements involving Catherine or their children. No shared events, no photos on the balcony, no appearances at family gatherings, nothing. And it wasn't just temporary. According to those inside the palace, William made it clear this was for life. No cooling off period, no second chances. The future king had drawn his line in the sand. And the message rippled fast across royal circles. Camilla wasn't just hurt, she was furious. For years, she'd worked to climb from being the most hated woman in Britain to standing next to the King of England. She'd fought through tabloids, public criticism, and royal resistance. But in a single sentence, she lost her place in the future of the crown. And this wasn't about protocol or hierarchy. This was about legacy. Behind palace walls, insiders say Camilla never fully accepted Catherine. Not as a royal, and definitely not as a future queen. Catherine, with her flawless image, commoner roots, and growing public love, was everything Camilla had to claw and suffer for, and that quiet resentment, it had been building for over a decade. The polite exchanges in public, the smiles during royal appearances, they were just surface-level acts. Behind the scenes, aides say Camilla constantly took little digs. She reportedly made fun of the Middleton family, mocked Kate's camera smile, and once even said her popularity was all sympathy, not substance. Still, Catherine never bit back. She stayed silent, kept her composure, and focused on her role. But the damage was slow and relentless. William watched it all, and when that final meeting happened, when Camilla crossed not just a line, but the line, he acted, not as a prince, but as a husband and son. And just like that, Camilla found herself on the outside of a monarchy she once schemed to belong to. The moment news of the royal split started trickling out, the public didn't hesitate. The response was swift, loud, and crystal clear. Catherine had their full support. Social media turned into a battlefield of hashtags, memes, and opinions, and Protect Catherine, and Not Our Queen shot to the top of trending charts. People weren't just angry at Camilla's remarks, they were furious that anyone would dare drag Diana's name into a cheap power play. For most of Britain, it wasn't just a matter of respect, it was personal. Diana's memory still burns bright, and for many, Catherine has stepped into that space with grace, dignity, and authenticity. She didn't claw her way to the top, she didn't manipulate the press or stage comebacks. She earned her place quietly, with a smile and steady commitment. But when Camilla tried to undercut that, it backfired spectacularly. The press followed suit. Suddenly, every tabloid that had once tried to balance Camilla's image with cautious flattery was turning up the heat. Headlines started shifting. Camilla's power fades. Catherine shines amid royal fallout. Is this the end of the queen's reign of influence? Every story that had once painted Camilla as a survivor now framed her as a divider. She was no longer longer seen as a reformed royal. It was like her past had come rushing back in full force. Inside the palace, it was chaos. Staff were quietly reassigned, upcoming events were redrafted, and Camilla's name began vanishing from internal schedules. Invitations that once included her now went out without her title. Advisors started using phrases like family realignment and protecting the future image of the crown. But let's be honest, it was an internal exile, wrapped in polite language. King Charles was caught in the middle of it all, one foot planted in loyalty to his wife, the other sinking into the realization that his own son had rejected her entirely. Sources say Charles tried reaching out to William multiple times. He called, he sent notes, he even asked Catherine directly if there was room to talk. The answer was always the same: polite, firm, and final. No. What hurt Charles most wasn't just the fallout, it was that William didn't go to the press, didn't make public appearances to spin the narrative. He just disappeared from the conversation, letting the public fill in the blanks. And the public filled it in fast. William was protecting his wife, honoring his mother's memory, and drawing the line that Charles never could. For Camilla, it was a public undoing. One moment she was standing at the center of royal influence, sharing the spotlight with the king. The next she was a footnote, invited only where required, waved off where it mattered. Some insiders even whispered that aides who had once curried favor with her were now avoiding her completely, choosing instead to align with the Waleses. And as all this played out, Catherine didn't say a single word. No statements, no tell-all interviews, no veiled comments. She kept showing up to events, visiting hospitals, speaking at mental health campaigns, smiling for school children. And with every appearance, her image only grew stronger. The press loved her even more. The public adored her even louder. People weren't just choosing sides, they were choosing a future. And Catherine wasn't just winning hearts, she was becoming the royal family's quiet center of gravity. Meanwhile, Camilla, once the symbol of royal rehabilitation, was now seen as the woman who went too far. And this time, no PR campaign could fix it. The final blow wasn't shouted in a press conference or leaked through an anonymous source. It came in the form of complete, deliberate silence. There were no photos of Camilla with Catherine at charity galas, no glimpses of her near the Wales children at royal events, no awkward family moments captured on the balcony during national celebrations. It was like she had vanished from their orbit entirely, and not by accident. Behind closed doors, the separation was meticulous. William had instructed palace officials to reroute all scheduling that included Camilla away from his family. If she was attending a ceremony, the Waleses would not. If there was a royal dinner planned, Catherine's name was quietly removed. And, most surprisingly, Camilla's own events began losing steam. Attendance was down, public enthusiasm had cooled, even the press seemed to treat her appearances like an afterthought. The emotional cost wasn't lost on Camilla. She had worked tirelessly to reach this position, to move from scandal to sovereignty, from being reviled to reluctantly accepted, but now she found herself more isolated than ever, and this time, no amount of strategic smiling could save her. Those closest to her say she became noticeably withdrawn, skipping social events she once hosted, and venting behind palace walls about betrayal, about how the ghost of Diana had won again. Charles, meanwhile, looked like a man stuck between two fires. He still appeared beside Camilla in public, still smiled when the cameras clicked, but in private, aides noticed a change. He canceled dinners, grew curt in meetings, he paced. One longtime staffer described him simply: he looked defeated. The monarchy he had waited his entire life to lead was now cracking down the middle, and his own wife had become the fracture line. His efforts to mediate were desperate, but pointless. He urged William to consider reconciliation, called on Catherine's empathy, even tried to initiate a formal family discussion, but the door remained closed. William's position was unshakable. You crossed my wife and you crossed my mother. There is no coming back from that. The public stood firmly behind him. polls showed overwhelming support not just for William's decision but for Catherine's grace under pressure. She had become more than a royal figure, she was a symbol. People saw her as the steady hand, the voice of reason, the woman who never lashed out even when the knives were out for her. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was power. Camilla, on the other hand, became the subject of late-night jokes and internet mockery. Satirical shows resurfaced the old Charles Diana tapes, and documentaries about Diana's legacy began airing again with renewed interest. Commentators pointed out the irony that the woman who had fought so hard to become queen had undone her own image with just a few careless words. As months passed, the royal calendar quietly adapted. The king and queen continued their duties, but always separate from the Waleses. Catherine's schedule grew fuller. She was invited to speak on mental health panels, lead children's campaigns, and appear at global summits. Each appearance cemented her image not just as a royal, but as a leader, and in the minds of many, she had become more than just the Princess of Wales. She was the rightful heir to Diana's grace, the people's queen-in-waiting, not by lineage, but by choice. Camilla might still hold the crown beside Charles, but it was Catherine who now carried the future. Not with speeches or declarations, just by standing tall, choosing dignity, and knowing exactly when to walk away.